recording. That's number one. I don't think there's anybody new here, so guys, just remember to talk to me over on the other device, which is the answers, right? Because if you're talking to me on Maths Tutors, I won't be able to see. So just ensure you're directing your question in the right. Okay. All right, so we are going through our questions. Let's go with May 2018. So I won't do all parts of all questions because some of it we have already gone through in terms of the steps or the procedures. So I really want to focus on showing you how to do the question that I think at this point you wouldn't know how to do on your own based on how it's worded. All right, so that's really what we're going for. Somebody's trying to get in. Not sure. Okay, so this one is worded a little bit differently. It says the function f with domain a equal 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to explain to you what that domain means. All right, so there's a part in the question further down where it will come into play. So I'll tell you what that means. But for now, let's look at it. We have f of x is equal to a half x minus 3. And the first thing that asks us to do is to find f of 1. All right, so we know f of 1 means where f of bcx, we need to put 1. So it's going to be a half times 1 minus 3, which is a half minus 3. And of course, you can put it in the calculators or you work your fractions, whichever one. You should be getting minus 2.5. Right, so you can put it in the calculators, right? Or you can get minus 2.5, minus 2.5. Any of those would work. Right, so literally, and why did I say a half times 1 is 1? Any number multiplied by 1 is just itself. Right, any number times 1 is just it. So the first one was pretty straightforward. The second one, so you guys can maybe actually try to put this in your calculator. For those who maybe aren't sure, let me take a step back. Right, so if I was going to put in my calculator, I would put 1, I'd put a bracket, 1 divided by 2, close bracket, minus 3. Right, so be sure to try to put it in your calculator. And you should get minus 2.5 to ensure you're able to get that on your own. So give me a yes in the chat when you put it in your calculator and you see how to do it. So when you put it in your calculator and you're seeing it, let me know. Give me a yes in the chat. Okay, I have one yes. Only one person has tried, guys. A word of advice as we are going through. Whatever calculator you plan to carry into the exam, that's what. Yeah, minus 5 over 2 is the same. Right, these two things are the same. Right, one is just a decimal, one is a improper fraction. Right, so if we get through the marathon eventually I can, try to do a little bit of revision on some other stuff like fractions and stuff, but for now, I'll just keep it basic. But yeah, the answer is fine as well. All right, everybody's not answering. But we go. All right, so then now this was the new thing I taught on Sunday. It says find the value of x, right? So we want to find x for which f of x is equal to -2. Right, find x for which f of x is equal to -2. So since they want f of x equal to -2, we are going to put a half x minus 3 equal -2. So if you look on the right hand side, f of x, I replace it with what they've given me. So I'm getting it from what I have circled on the right. Right, and then after that, you're just going to solve. So whatever they tell you f of x is equal to, you set it equal to it, and then you solve for x. For some of you who were having the solving problem, I sent you some videos that you could watch. Well, I sent you a link to some videos rather. So I hope you will get a chance to watch them. So we're looking for x, right? So you move everything else first. So that's why I'm going to move the -3. So when I take it across, we do the opposite. So it becomes +3. Right? And so we have a half x is equal to 1. Right? And this is really saying half times x. So what I would say is the numbers that are in the denominator are divided. So I would say the 2 which is divided, when we take it across, we multiply. And you know that 1x is just x, and 1 times 2 is 2. So going over that again, the first thing I did was to set the f of x equal to the value. Then the 3 which is subtracted, when I take it to the other side, I added. The 2 which is divided, when I take it across, I multiply. And as I've been saying, 1x, usually we don't write like that in math, so 1x is just x. Okay, so part 3 is the part that's a little bit different. So look at that question, give me a yes in the chat to confirm with me that you're okay with part 1 and part 2. Is everybody else hearing me? Some persons are not hearing me. Is everybody else hearing me? I'm not sure if it's just something wrong with that person's device. Are you guys all hearing me? Okay, maybe it's that person's device. I'm gonna tell the person to leave and come. Everybody super clear for part 1 and part 2? Okay, awesome. Okay, as I said, part 3 is a little bit different. Let's talk about what they mean by domain. So from the beginning, they told us that f, you have the function f with domain a equal 1, 2, 3. Right? So the domain means all the possible X values that can be used. All right, so for example, X cannot be 4 since it is not a part of the domain. So I'm going to show you what this means a little further. So let's go with X, f of X. Remember that first class we had? Okay, so that first class we had, we spoke about X and we spoke about f of X, right? In terms of that, the X is the input and the f of X is your output. So another name for input, okay, great. Another name for input is the domain, and another name for output is the range. Right? So what they're saying is that you can only put 1, 2, and 3, and then you'll get some output values. 4 would be somewhere like on the outside. So there, it does not match to anything. So 4 would not have any value. 4 would just be on the outside, right? So on the outside, and I just chose 4. If you wanted to make it 5, any number that is not 1, 2, 3, you could have put it on the outside, right? So 4 is on the outside. Since not in domain. So we're going to try to figure out what these things match to, but the first thing to understand about this question, right? So let me go to something and then I'm gonna come back. It says an ordered pair for the function is expressed in the form. So they're telling us that an ordered pair, let's break down the question. They told us that an ordered pair is AB. It says using your answers to A part I and A part 2, or otherwise list the ordered pairs of the function. So what they're saying is that, what they said, ordered pairs, the matching inputs and outputs. That's what ordered pair means, right? So they're asking you list all the matching inputs and outputs. So based on what we have here, right, we know that the inputs are 1, 2, and 3. So that's why I have 1, 2, and 3. So I'll give you some time to write, guys. Just focus a little bit, right? So it's 1 and something, it's 2 and something, and it's 3. So we know that these are the input, input, input. But we need to know the output. So we already know the output for the first one, right? So from part I, what did we know? F of 1, what did we get? Let me go back. F of 1 was minus 2.5. So they're telling us that the output was minus 2.5. Right? So I'm saying that from part 1, f of 1 was minus 2.5. So that is one of the ordered pairs. But we also need to do it for 2 and for 3. But before I go any further, are you guys seeing it with the 1? So all this question was asking you to do is to write all the matching inputs and outputs, right? And how you would know the inputs is based on the thing that they told you at the start, that A is the domain. So you'd have to know that domain means input. So we're not finished with the question because we need to find 2 and 3. But is everybody seeing that 1 matches to minus 2.5? Right, so the reason, if you notice, they gave us a hint, you know, because they said what? From part I, well, part, yeah, that we're supposed to use something. And then they also tell us that from the second part, we're supposed to get some information. So from the second part, what did we figure out? We figure out that f of x is equal to minus 2 when x is equal to 2. Right, so f of x is equal to minus 2. So we actually didn't need to rework it. So the idea, guys, they know that you all have limited time in the exam, so they try to use questions where some of the work is already done for you. So the only thing we really need to find is the output for 3 because we didn't work out that one. So I'm saying the reason the question, it says using your answers from part I and part II, or otherwise, if you want to go and rework it, you could. But this is what they're saying. So what we need to do is to find the output when x equals 3. So we're trying to find f of 3, which would be what? A half times 3. Let me write it down, don't take it for granted. Right, so what's missing is to find the output when x equals 3. So f of x is equal to a half x minus 3. So f of 3 means wherever I see x, I put 3. Which is equal to 3 over 2 minus 3. And as I say, you can put that in the calculator as 3 divided by 2 minus 3. And you should get minus 1.5. Right, so those are the 3 ordered pairs that you would give them to get your full marks. All right, so let me give you guys a chance to write off. So I'll put on this page first. So for the person who came in a bit late, yeah, so minus 3 over 2, that's the same thing. Yeah, so for the person who came in late, essentially we're at May 2018 part 3, and it says an ordered pair for the function is expressed as AB, right? And I was saying what an ordered pair for the function, what all of that means sounds very complicated. All they're asking you is to put the matching inputs and outputs, where A is the input, B is the output. So they didn't say all of that, but you're supposed to understand that. Right? So you say, okay, what inputs am I supposed to use? So I explained to them that this part of the question where it tells you domain A equal 1, 2, 3, the domain telling you the X values. So that's what the definition of a domain is. The domain are the X values that you are allowed to use. So I was just explaining to them that you can use 1, you can use 2, you can use 3, but let's say somebody uses 4. They will get it wrong because 4 is not a part of the domain. So they just want to know when you put in 1, what's the output? When you put in 2, what's the output? When you put in 3, what's the output? So we call the input the domain and we call the output the range, right? So just giving you some additional information. Then I was telling them that if you notice, it says using part I, the first part and the second part. So from the first part, we found that f of 1 was minus 2.5. So f of 1 was telling us that the input was 1, and when we calculated it, so you missed that part, but we got that the input was 1, output minus 2.5. And remember, f of 1 just means wherever you see x, put 1. Then from the second part, when f of x was minus 2, the input was 2. We found that x was 2. So they're telling us that when x is 2, output is minus 2. And then the third part, that we would have had to work from scratch. Okay, so I'll look for any questions and then we're going to move to part 4. Okay. No questions. So for part 4, hold on, I think I got the message. Okay. Then for part 4, it says explain why f of x. All right, so explain why f of x cannot be 5, right? So what this means is not equal to. Right, so when you see the equal by itself, equal, equal with slash, not equal. So they're basically asking us, why can't f of x be equal to 5? Right, because they want us to explain. Well, when you see a question like this, yes, I understand you wouldn't have known how to do it before now, but what a question like this is asking you to do is to find the input and show that the input is not valid. So let's see. So when f of x equals 5, what is the input? Right, so it's basically me asking you, find x if f of x equals 5. Right, so f of x equals 5. So put a half x minus 3 equals 5. Solve for x and tell me what you get for x. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to try that, just to see. I know it's very easy when I'm doing it, but I want you guys to try it. right? So we want to know what is x. Anybody else trying? What would x be if you had to solve for x? Right, you don't want to move the -3 first. All right, so a half x would be 5 plus 3. So a half x is equal to 8. And the 2 which is divided, we'll take it across here, multiply. So you guys should have gotten 16. Are you guys seeing any mistakes? Okay, awesome. So guys, the reason that f of x equal 5 is not valid is because look at it, based on the domain that they give us, can x be 16? No, x can only be 1, 2, or 3. Right? X can only be 1, 2, or 3. So to finish this off, we would say, since the domain is a equal 1, 2, 3, yeah, and for f of x to be equal to 5, x would have to be 16. X equals 16 is not in the domain. So like we have the 1, 2, 3. Voila. Minus 1.5. Right, guys, so you want to imagine you have this, and then you have the 5 outside. Nice. You have 16 matching to 5. I'm saying that it wouldn't be in the circle because the only things in the circle is the 1, the 2, and the 3. Are you guys seeing that? So they're asking you to explain why f of x cannot be 5 for that specific function. And I'm saying it cannot be 5 because the only way for it to be 5 is if x was 16. But based on what they've told us, x would never ever be 16. X can only be 1, 2, or 3. Hi guys, this question overall was very different from the usual, so hence that's why I still wanted to go through them so that you guys could get some extra exposure. in case they decide to not ask it straightforward. Okay, I would want to move on to January 2019. Those who are finished, you can move on. However, for the others, is there any page you want me to go back to? Is there any page in specific anybody wants me to go back to? Okay, so most of you have been here since the start of the marathon. So go ahead and try. Well, if you're here on Sunday, because this January 2019 is one of the hard ones. So if you're here on Sunday, you should be able to attend the inverse. Probably not part one. Part one, you're gonna need my help. Okay, so let's talk about something, right? So a function is undefined if the denominator is equal to 0. Not the numerator, the denominator. Right? So a function is undefined if the denominator is equal to 0. So when they tell us that h of x is equal to 2x plus 3 over 5 minus x, and they ask the value of x for which f of x undefined, what they're asking us for is the value of x that makes the denominator equal to 0. So again, this is something new that you would need to know. So I'm pointing out, so we already learned something new today. We learned what domain means. We learned what order pair for the function means. I'm saying now we're learning what does it mean for the function to be undefined. And I'm saying that if they're asking you for the value that makes a function undefined, they're asking you what is the value that makes the denominator equal to 0. So whenever you get questions like this, step 1, set the denominator only equal to 0. And then step 2, solve for x. So write down the instructions and then we'll actually do it. Hold on, guys, there's some noise outside. No, not x equal to 0. The denominator equal to 0. And then you solve for x. Guys, denominator is the one that's below. So you're taking the one below. Top one is numerator. I want the denominator equal to 0. Okay. So I set the denominator, which is 5 minus x equal to 0. And then I solve for x. So since the x is minus, then I take it across. I will plus. And so x is just equal to 5. So if x equal to 5, the function will be undefined. And let's just check. So for the first one, so this extra part, let's just call this a bonus. You don't have to actually do this part in the exam. I'm just trying to do it for explanation purposes. So let us check. So you have h of x is equal to 2x plus 3 over 5 minus x. So if we put h of 5, we will have 2 times 5 plus 3 over 5 minus 5, which will be 10 plus 3 over 0, which will be 13 over 0. In fact, try to put in your calculators. Put 13 divided by 0 in your calculators. And tell me what you're seeing. It's that we don't have our calculators today. What's happening, guys? When you put 13 divided by 0 in your calculator, what are you seeing? Okay, one person is seeing what they should see. What about the others? Yes, it should be saying math error. Right? It should be saying some kind of error message. Right? And that is because in general, any number divided by 0 gives you a math error. So we cannot divide numbers by 0. So that is why it's undefined. Undefined sounds as if not in existence. Right? So that is why if you get the function, if the denominator is 0, we say that it is undefined because we would not be able to work it out. Right? So they're just asking you what value makes the function undefined. Going back to this January 2016 question, suppose I had asked you as a third part, the value of x, right? Suppose we add something to this. The value of x for which f of x is undefined. What would you tell me? Those who may have a question about anything else, please let me know. If you need the notes, whatever it may be. For the others, go ahead and try. If I ask you the value of x for which f of x is undefined, what would you tell me? No. Remember, you set the denominator equal to 0 and then you solve. You don't just put 0. It's the denominator equal to 0, not x equal to 0. So look, you have 2x plus 1 as the denominator. If I let x be 0, I'm getting 1. That's not true. So 0, x equals 0 would not help us. Is anybody still writing notes? Anybody needs me to be on a particular page? Guys, class is feeling very dead today, guys. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Push through. You can do it. It's the final day of functions. Push through, guys. You guys are not, it's like 3 persons at maximum answering me. And I literally have 14 people on the call. Come on, guys. Push yourself. Push yourself. Just do everything you can before your exam. After your exams are finished, you can get all the rest and everything that you want. Just give it all up until then. I know you guys are exhausted. I know you're tired. I know it's a lot. I know all of it. But just push through. You're almost at the end. You guys are like a month and a little bit away. Just push through, guys. Right? So we would set the denominator equal to 0 and then solve for x. So the one which is added, when we take it across, we will subtract. So 2x is equal to -1. And the 2 which is multiplied, when we take it across, we will divide. So yes, x equal -1/2 is the value that would make the function undefined. Okay, those who are finished, go on to the inverse. As I said, those who weren't here on Sunday might find it difficult, but otherwise you guys should be fine. Right, h of x is 2x plus 3 over 5 minus x. All right, so we find the inverse. So remember, we let the thing be equal to y. So we have 2x plus 3 over 5 minus x. So we have to be equal to y. Then we interchange our x and our y. So x is equal to 2y plus 3 over 5 minus y. So the y becomes x. And the x's, in this case, become y. All right, and then step 3 is to solve for the new y. Yeah, sure. Hi guys, coming back. Somebody just asked me to go back to the last slide. Yeah, you're welcome. Did anybody need me to go back to any previous slides? Was there anything else anybody didn't get from any other slides? Okay. So we need to solve for the new y. So based on what we did on Sunday, I said that the 5 minus y, which is divided. When we take it across, we are going to multiply. You are then going to expand. So it's the outside times the inside. So x times 5 is 5x. And then x times minus y is minus xy. And that is equal to 2y plus 3. Right, we want to get the y's on one side. So I'm going to bring this over. So I'm going to say that 5x is equal to 2y plus 3 plus xy. So I have the y's, however, this 3 is out of place, so I'm going to carry it over. So I have 5x minus 3 is equal to 2y plus xy. Let me just make sure, guys, it's still recording. Okay. Right, so again, guys, this is the hardest type of inverse. So please ensure that you are following. This is the hardest way it comes. So if you can get this, you should be fine. Right, so step 1 was to let h of x be y. Step 2, interchange your x's and your y's. Step 3 now, we're just trying to solve. That has nothing to do with functions. This is more us kind of going through our algebra. Right, so the x times 5 is how I got 5x. And then the x times minus y is how I got minus xy. I then want to bring the y's to one side. So I bring that minus xy over to the next side, it becomes plus. But then I say, wait, yeah, I have the y's, but that 3 is out of place. That 3 don't have on any y, so I want it to go over to the other side. Okay, so we have 5x plus minus 3 is equal to 2y plus xy. I'm going to finish solving, but just giving persons a chance to write up to this point. Okay, so with these questions, right? So for this specific type where you have the 2 y's, you always factor out y. So these type of questions, you'll always have the two y's on one side, and then you pull out the y, and that leaves 2 plus x, right? So that's called factorization, but even if you can't see it, what you want to do is put the y on the outside, and then in the bracket, you leave what's left over. Right, so if I pull out the y, the 2 is left over. If I pull out the y, the x is left over. So even if you don't know how to factorize, I'm at least giving you a hint on how you can still be able to do this question. And the final step, the 2 plus x, which is multiplied when we take it across, we divide. And that's it. Right, so you just want to finish off by saying h inverse of x, because remember the new y is your inverse. So you just want to rewrite it so that you put your answer. Sorry, guys. Okay, like this one. All right, so you just want to put your final answer so that everything is all good to go. Okay, so for those who are here, so we're not going to do the first one. I think you guys can manage that. If inverse, I think you guys can manage that. So for this one, this is the new part, so we're going to focus on that. All right, we're going to talk about that third one. I guys, we want the time to go through every piece, but I'm saying G of 5 just means wherever you say x, you're going to put 5. And for the x inverse, that's one of the easy inverse. So you'll be okay. So as it relates to this inverse on the left-hand side, if there's anything anybody still needs me to, any specific page, let me know and I'll go to that page for you. Okay, so for May 2015, if anybody needs me to go back, just let me know. It's because nobody is talking, so I'm just assuming you guys are okay. So as I said, I won't do the first one, but I'll give you the answer. Right, so I'll walk you through it. So G of 5 just means wherever you see x, put 5. And the answer you're supposed to get is 8, right? So on your own time, you can go ahead and try that. Then for the next one, which is the inverse, right? You follow your steps. F inverse of x is supposed to give you x minus 2 over 3. All right, so we did the third part that we're going to talk about. Right, so maybe just make note of those 2 answers, and then we're going to talk about part 3. Okay, so they say write an expression for g of f of x in the form x plus a, x plus b. So when you see this, what they're asking you to do, so when it's in this form, they're asking you to write it in the form of a factorized quadratic equation, right? So whenever you see x plus a, x plus b, you should be thinking, what's at the end after b? You mean on the question part? Right here? Oh. They're just saying where b's are real, where a and b are real numbers. Not important to the question. They're just saying it can be any number. Right? So a and b being a real number means it can be any number. But let's say we're working this question. You don't really know where it's going to be, but you say, you know what? Let me go ahead with g of f of x. Let's start there. All right, so we know that g of f of x means that the function on the right is going to go into the one on the left. So g of x is x squared minus 1 over 3. So g of f of x means wherever I see x, I'm going to put f of x. Right, so just like when it was g of 5, wherever you see x is supposed to put 5, same thing. So what is f of x? F of x is 3 plus 2, 3x plus 2. So it's 3x plus 2 squared minus 1 over 3. Okay, this one was a little bit difficult. Is everybody following me up to this step though? So we don't know how the whole question is going to turn out, but up to this step, is everybody following me up to this point? Is everybody on board up to this point? Okay, so after this, guys, this one has nothing to do with functions after this. After this is just algebra. Okay, so for the person who asked me to go over, do you remember that g of f of x means you're going to put f into g? Right, okay. So putting f into g means wherever I see x, I will put f of x. That's okay? All right. And then based on the question, f of x is 3x plus 2. So I replace the f of x with 3x plus 2. With me now? Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm gonna come back to this, but I just want to show you. So the 3x plus 2 squared is not, so what most students are going to do is say 3x squared plus 2 squared. That's not true, right? 3x plus 2 squared means 3x plus 2 times 3x plus 2. Right? So then we say, that's so many bags passing to that. So then we have 3x times 3x, which is going to give us 9x squared. We have 3x times 2, which is going to give us 6x. We have 2 times 3x, which will also give us 6x. And 2 times 2, which will give us 4. So what we really have is 9x squared plus 12x plus 4. That's what the portion that was in green, that's what it's going to be equal to. So let me give you a moment to write this off, and then we go back to work in the question. Guys, I'm just looking through the questions, so don't mind me. Just finish writing off. Okay, so what we really have is 9x squared plus 12x plus 4 minus 1 over 3. All right, so I just expanded that part. So putting it all together, we have 9x squared plus 12x plus 3 over 3. Again, guys, this question was probably one of the hardest ones I've seen. I just still want to do it with you just in case. At least you could have gotten some marks, and it's still good because you're learning some other stuff while we're doing it. Okay, so I have 9x squared plus 12x plus 3 over 3. So I should notice that 3 is common to everything, right? So I could take out a 3 out the top. That leaves 3x squared plus 4x plus 1. So that's in terms of factorization, but for those persons who are not good at factorization, how you could look at it, right? You could say 3 into that 3, 3 into that 4, 3 into that 1, 3 into that 1. Right? So in the end, you would have 3x squared plus 4x plus 1 over 1. Which is exactly what I'm going to have here, since the 3's will cancel. So I'm just going to have 3x squared plus 4x plus 1. So it's up to you. Please note though, the only reason I'm allowed to do this is because the 3 can divide everything. So why am I saying that? Suppose you had, right? Suppose you have 3x plus 4 over 3. right? You cannot do this. This is a big no. The only reason you're allowed to do it is because 3 can go into everything. So again, I would love for you guys to look at it as the factorization way, but I do know that some persons don't know how to factorize, and I don't want to leave you out of the class. So I'm saying another way to look at it is that's a rule of fractions. That if there's a number that can divide everything in the numerator and the denominator, you can do that. So it's just up to you, but the question is not finished. So give me a yes when you're with me up to this point. So if you're with me up to this point, if it's a yes, if it's a no, try to tell me what part you're not with me for. Hey guys, this question is a big question, so I don't want us to take it on all at once. I'm trying to do it in portions so that you're catching it every step of the way. Again, guys, the class very, very silent today. No, it's not. Remember, they wanted to express it like this. X plus A, X minus B. So put me that. So it's not a one answer yet. Expect it as X plus A, X minus B. So what we have is yes, and I understand that you understand because I'm showing you. So maybe on the exam, you have gotten a little intimidated. But here's my thing, right, guys? For a question like this, even if you can't do everything, and you make it even up to this point, I promise you, you're getting some marks, and you're already 1,000 steps ahead of the pack. And the good thing is that your exam is marked on a curve, so even if you do not complete your questions, if you attempt them, and this is why it's such an important thing for you to attempt all of your questions, right? Because most students are going to panic and not put anything. So if you can at least put something, you're already putting yourself at an advantage. So I can tell you guys, not everybody who gets a 1 in CXC math or even a 2 or a 3, it's not because they have done extremely well. It's just that they've done extremely better than everybody else. Yes, some persons have worked for their 1s, their 2s, and their 3s, but some just had a really good day and were able to write as much as possible on that paper. So if you know that you're somebody who you don't like math, or you really want to pass so that you don't have to do it over, guys, ensure that you're able to at least show them that. So like this, if you do this, you're showing them you understand what g of f of x means. Of course you're going to get some marks. You're just not going to get the mark for this portion. So always do what you can. Okay, guys, so this is called a quadratic expression, and I wanted to do this because I know some of you may not know how to factorize a quadratic expression, so I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to possibly try and help you with that, to just give you a little crash course on how to factorize a quadratic expression. Right, and this can come in definitely the first part of the paper. They usually say to factorize, and it just comes in different topics, to be honest. So step 1. Right, a quadratic is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. That's how you identify the quadratic. You have an x squared term or y squared, whatever letter, but you have a squared term the normal, and then the number on the outside. So step one is to write the value of A, B, and C. So in this case, A is whatever is in front of the x squared, B is whatever is in front of x, and C is what is on the outside. Right, so just as a bonus, for example, suppose I have right, A would be 4, B would be 3, C would be -2. Right, so that's just as a bonus so that you can get the, well, it would be -4, it would be -4, my apologies. You have to take up the sign. Right, so that's step one. So again, guys, trying to use this as a teaching moment to help you overall. Then step two, find the value of A times C. Right? So in our case, that would be 3 times 1, which is 3. Right? So whenever you're solving or you're factorizing your quadratic expression, step one, write the value of A, B, and C. Step two, find the value of A times C. We're going to then go through step 3. Okay, then step 3, write all the factor pairs that give their answer in step 2. So what do I mean by that? So watch me do it first. So what I want to know is what are all the numbers that I can multiply using the factors. The factors are the numbers that are smaller. Right? So what are all the numbers I can multiply to get 3? I can multiply 1 and 3, but guess what? I can also multiply -1 and -3. So whenever you're doing the positives, you want to remember that what? A positive multiplied by a positive is a positive, but as well, a negative multiplied by a negative is a positive. Right, so let me just do a bonus so that we can understand. So suppose when I did from step 2, I had 6, right? I would put 1 and 6, -1 and -6. I would put 2 and 3, and I would put minus. So for all of them, I would put the positives and then I would put the negatives. Right? Because all of these numbers, when I multiply them, I get +6. As an additional bonus, right? What if we got -3? Right? You want to remember that a positive times a negative is a negative, and a negative times a positive is a negative. So if it was -3 instead, you would do 1 times minus 3 and minus 1 times 3. If it was instead minus 6, you would do 1 and minus 6, minus 1 and 6, 2 and minus 3, or minus 2 and 3. So for step 3, you're writing out the pairs. And I'm just saying to you that if it's a positive number, ensure you write out. And to be honest, you don't necessarily have to write out. When you get better at it, you can kind of do it mentally. I'm just assuming that most of you here probably don't like math, and so I'm trying to teach it to you the way I teach it to my normal students, which is to make it very, very simple so that you're not in the exam panicking. You have some steps that you're working with, right? So step 3, whatever number you got from step 2, you want to write down all the numbers you can multiply to get it. And I'm saying just watch the signs, just watch the signs. And yes, it's important that you write both the positives and the negatives. As I said, if you have time beyond the marathons and I can go over some of these things, I have no problem trying to do that with you guys, but I'm saying yes, you must write down both pairs. So write that down. Then we're gonna go to step 4. So again, what are we doing? We're trying to factorize the quadratic 3x squared plus 4x plus 1. The first step, write down your A, your B, and your C. Step 2, find the value of A times C. Step 3, right, is just the top, right? Then step 4, rewrite the original expression. So again, guys, even if you're in the exam, you can't go all the way. You must can do something up to a point, get some marks. Right? So what was the original thing we had? 3x squared plus 4x plus 1. Right? In fact, this is not step 4. Sorry, guys, so sorry. It is, but I kind of want to break it down a little bit more. So choose the pair that will add to give you B. Right? So just putting it back. Remember, we had 3, so we had 1 and 3 minus 1 and minus 3. Right? So that was the time. So now I want you to think about if you were supposed to add 1 plus 3, you get 4. And if you add minus 1 with minus 3, you get minus 4. So step 4 is to add the numbers together. So again, as a bonus, if I was supposed to add this together, I will get 5. This together, I will get minus 5. No, sorry, minus 7. All right, so we get 7, minus 7, you will get 5, and you will get minus 5. All right, because 1 plus 6 is 7, minus 1 minus 6 is minus 7, 2 plus 3 is 5, minus 2 minus 3 is 5. This would give you a minus 2. This would give you 2. So I think I'll have the space. That's minus 5, 5. That would give us minus 1, and that would give us positive 1. Right, so just kind of getting it in the group so that you see how to do it. So you can maybe put that on the bonus ones. So this is for the sum. So write on the bonus and then I'll come back to this one. So remember, the sum is for step 4. Again, guys, it will seem very long because you're doing it for the first time. So the more comfortable you get with it, you literally do it in like, so you don't have to be doing all the words, right? You would just be literally doing it. Right, and if you remember, A was 3, B was 4, C was 1. So the pair that gives 4 is 1 and 3. Right? So whatever B is, so suppose B was minus 4. Instead, I would choose minus 1 and minus 3. So that's why you have to write down all the pairs. Right? So if B was minus 4, instead, I would have to choose minus 1 and minus 3. Step 5, we are going to rewrite the original expression using the chosen pair. So we had 3x squared plus 4x plus 1. So I'm going to rewrite. So what we do is we change out the middle part. So instead of saying 4x, you say 1x plus 3x. So the whole aim of doing that is so that you can find the two numbers that you're supposed to use to rewrite the middle. But you have to do steps 2 to 4 in order to figure out. So can you just use any 2? No. You have to use a specific 2 that give you back that middle piece. So if you don't use that, you're going to get it wrong. And it's not going to work out regardless. Okay, give me a yes when you're with me up to this point. Again, guys, if this is something that is giving you a problem, it means that you probably need to go into the folder and look how to, I think you would go into factorization, look at your quadratics, and try to learn how to do them, right? Very, very important. Comes up in a lot of topics, guys, please. If anybody needs me to go back to any specific page, let me know. For the person who said no, what step did you start to feel the no? Oh, I'm just asking if you're okay. Okay, awesome. All right, so what we have is we have 3x squared plus x plus 3x plus 1. So step 6 is really just to factorize in pairs, and at Maths Academy, I call it, so if you look in the videos, you need to know how to do type 3, right? So I call it factorization methods. So I call it type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. So if you would know to factorize something like this, you would need to go and look at like type 3 videos. But essentially what you do is you group them in twos, right? So for the first one, I would be factorizing 3x squared plus x, right? And x is common to both of them, so we take out the x. On the outside, you can only take out what is common. So take out the x, so that leaves back 3x. And since I've taken out the x, that would just leave back 1. Right? So it will be x, 3x plus 1. And the idea is that whatever is in the first bracket has to go in the second bracket. Right? So again, when you look at my videos with the type 3, it will help. Right? So essentially all you need to do is to figure out what goes there and how to figure that out. Right? You just divide those two by each other. So 3x divided by 3x. Remember, anything divided by itself is 1. So again, you factorize. So to do type 3, you group them in pairs. You factorize the first one. Whatever is in the bracket of the first one has to go in the bracket of the second one. And if you want to put the plus there, that can kind of help, because you know it's a positive one. So whatever, I think I sent you the link, not the video, I'm not sure. So whatever is in the blue box goes in one bracket, and whatever is on the outside, which would be the x and the 1, go in the second bracket. But you can check after class, and if it's not, let me know. So when they wanted you to put it in the form x plus a, x plus b, that's what they meant. Right, so essentially I'm saying that what you were supposed to do, what they were asking you to do is, you're going to, when you do the g of f of x, you would realize you get a quadratic, and what that question, when they said put it in the form x plus a, x minus b, x plus a, x plus b, what they were saying to you in very difficult terms is factorize the quadratic, right? So this means factorize the quadratic. So if you didn't know how to factorize the quadratics, you would have had a problem. But again, guys, I have videos where I go through it slowly. I go through all the different ways it can come. You have the videos. Unfortunately, guys, I wouldn't have the time to reteach every single topic. So some of the work you will have to do on your own. But the videos are there. I'm giving you access to everything. So just try and even just watch, even if it's a little portion. You don't have to watch the whole video, but even a little portion of it just to get something. Right? So again, this question was really asking you to factorize the quadratic. Okay, so I just want to do one more question and then we'll call it. January 2012 also a bit difficult, but I'm feeling more to go with 2016, right? Just because there's some more general stuff coming out of it. So guys, go ahead, finish writing. All right, so we don't need to do F inverse. That part is pretty simple. I do want to do G inverse because that part is new. So I want to do G inverse and then kind of walk you guys through what to do for the other part. So for me, 2016, F inverse straightforward, G inverse, G of X is equal to X squared plus 1. Right, so we let Y equal to G of X, and then we interchange. Right, so we let G of X be Y, and then we interchange the X and the Y. Right, and then we want to solve for new Y. So the plus 1, when you take it across, you subtract. Right, because we're looking for Y, so you want to move everything from beside the Y. So the reason I wanted to do this question, right? So to get rid of, okay, perfect. Right, so to get rid of the square, so you know we've been talking about opposite, right? Yes, you square root. So the opposite of plus is the minus, the opposite of minus is the plus, the opposite of multiplication is division, opposite of division, multiplication, and the opposite of the square is actually the square root. Similarly, the opposite of the square root is a square. So I would have to square root the other side, right? So that was a little bit new, so that's why I wanted to go through it. So G inverse of X would be the square root of X minus 1. So I'm not going to work the other part. I do want to give you some instructions to walk you through it. And what I'll try to do is, I'm not sure when I'll try to make the time sometime this week. What I'll probably do is for the ones that we didn't go through, I'll put the solutions and send them to you just so that those persons who want to maybe go through and look at them, and I'll try to write as detailed as possible so that you'll have it. Okay, since I know we didn't get to complete, but I really would like for you guys to attempt all of these questions or at least be able to go through them and make sure that you are comfortable. Right, so I'm not going to say by tomorrow because I do have some stuff to do and I also want to plan for the marathon for Sunday, but I will do that for you guys. I'll just put on my to-do list, I'll write up the solutions for the remaining ones that you guys can have it. All right, so f of g of x, you just know you're going to put, right? So put g of x into f. So put g of x into f. For fg inverse of x, right? You're simply saying find the inverse of f of g of x. So whatever you get for your answer for f of g of x, you're just gonna find the inverse of that. All right, so don't let it scare you. All that is saying is find the inverse of f of g of x. And then the second part, it says show that f of g inverse of 5 is equal to g inverse f inverse of 5. So what we're going to do is you're going to work f of g inverse of 5, which means put 5 into the inverse. Right? All this is saying, put 5 into the inverse that you're going to find. G inverse, f inverse of 5 is saying f inverse of 5, put it into G inverse. Right, so this is saying put f inverse of 5 into G inverse of x. And your aim is to show you get the same answer for both. Right, because it says show that they're equal, which means that the answers must be the same. All right, guys. So as I said, I could feel energy was low today. However, for those persons who were communicating with me and pushing through, I appreciate you. You know, it can be very hard as a teacher sometimes when they're giving you all and students are not really giving you anything to work with. But for those of you who were talking to me throughout class, I really appreciate it. For those of you who weren't talking, maybe you're just exhausted. Maybe it just felt a little bit overwhelming. So I won't say you're trying to be a bad person. But please, guys, try to communicate with me so that I can know what's happening, what's working, what's not working. This is teamwork. I'm literally trying to help you guys. I don't know. I know a lot of you may not have had teachers that literally beg you to speak to them and beg you to be open and beg you to let them explain again. So just consider this like a blessing from God and just make use of it, guys. Make use of it. I'm telling you, there are a lot of persons right now who job opportunities they don't have because they haven't passed math. You know what I mean? Don't let that be you. I literally have persons right now who in the work world, they cannot get promotions because they do not have math. And I'm talking about persons who have left school a very long time. And unfortunately, they now have to be doing it because of course they want to go further in life. So I'm saying, guys, just make use of the opportunity right now so that you can get past it and you move on. All right. As I said, I'll send the solutions at some point. Until then, guys, we're gonna switch gear and do some trigonometry. So just get your brain ready for that on Sunday. All right, guys, so great job to those who were speaking with me. Everybody else, I'll send a recording tonight. All right, guys, goodbye.